As Princess Elizabeth, the Queen married Prince Philip in 1947. After seeing so many royal divorces, she now welcomes girls from less elevated backgrounds into her family.
The Queen particularly is quite in favour of someone rather unattractively termed a commoner marrying the younger members of the royal family, because she sees middle-class girls with a good university education as a better bet than perhaps the kind of aristocratic prima donnas that might have been singled out for princes in the days gone by. Her experience with people who are less common, say Fergie, who was a commoner of sorts, but yet she was the daughter of an army officer, and so she probably was from the higher echelons than somebody like Kate Middleton. They've gone disastrously wrong. So maybe she's quite happy for people who are just stable, communal garden, middle-class girls.
When the Queen was crowned in 1953, she was the 26-year-old mother of 2 young children, Charles and Anne. Huge responsibilities were placed on her.
William and Kate's marriage will be completely different from the Queen's in terms of having children and producing an heir. The Queen was the monarch and a mother and had to juggle 2 very difficult roles at a time when she came to the throne. Prince William is going to spend his early married years out of the limelight to a certain extent. He's not working as a working royal as such. And his father has yet to ascend to the throne, so William and Kate will probably be able to bring up their family before he even has to think of ruling the country.
Among the guests at the royal wedding were William's uncle, Prince Edward, and his wife, Sophie. Like Kate, she came from an ordinary background. They married in 1999, and theirs had proved to be one of the most successful royal marriages. Sophie, too, faced media scrutiny. But as a successful public relations executive running her own company, she was well prepared.
Sophie Rhys-Jones, Prince Edward's wife, is a perfect example of somebody who slotted into the royal family brilliantly. And this, let's face it, is the daughter of a tyre salesman. But because she's very level-headed and she's very together and she's led a so-called normal life, she's fitted in perfectly, and now she's extremely close to the Queen.
30 years ago, Lady Diana Spencer brought youth and glamour to the royal family. Since her tragic death in 1997, no one has taken her place so far in the nation's heart.
If there's going to be anyone that's going to be replacing Diana, then it's going to be Prince William's wife. And I think if she's got that dazzle factor, which Kate does appear to have, she appears to be able to sell newspapers and intrigue cameramen, then clearly she's a very good bet for the royal family.
As Princess Elizabeth, the Queen spent the first 5 years of her marriage with Prince Philip in Malta, where she was on naval duty.
Kate's early married life is going to be very similar to that of the Queen's when she lived in Malta. Kate will be spending her first years as a newlywed, living in a cottage in Anglesey, and the Queen obviously spent her life as a military wife too.
Flight Lieutenant William Wales, as he's known in the Royal Air Force, pilots Sea King helicopters, sometimes flying over the mountains of North Wales in treacherous weather. After a long day or night with his colleagues, he goes back home to Kate at their cottage near his base at RAF Valley in Anglesey. It's a life he much prefers to his royal duties.
He's only done a handful of royal engagements. He's done a couple of short royal tours on his own. He's not really being a fully fledged member of the royal family firm. So in a way, he's learning the ropes just as she is. And he's not used to being the star of the show. He's left that to his dad. For a boy who likes to be out of the limelight, likes to be watching soccer on TV, watching a movie, he'll be thrilled if the burden of taking on public duties is left to Catherine.
Her official job will be providing support to her husband. They will be expected to make foreign tours, like their first destinations to Canada and California. At home in North Wales, she's a real housewife of Anglesey, shopping and cooking for her husband and running their cottage without full-time staff.
She's an organised girl. She's always been that way. She's the kind of girl who enjoys things like sewing and knitting, and she was taught to do that by her grandmother. And I always find it interesting that the sewing that was so beautiful on the wedding dress, again, that's an influence of Catherine's. She's a girl who's organised in a very feminine way.
In 1983, Diana and Charles took baby William on tour to Australia and New Zealand. It was a very arduous trip. Later, Diana said, "I realised the sense of duty, the level of intensity of interest, and the demanding role I now found myself in."
She was frazzled, the poor kid. I mean, I remember meeting her for the first time in Australia in 1983, April. She was suntanned, she was red, she was hot, she was bothered, she was nervous. She started that tour as a very nervy colt, shall we say, and she emerged at the end of it after 6 weeks of being on the road, a seasoned royal performer. And I think that with Catherine, you're going to see the same things.
But Kate has had a longer time to prepare than Diana. She was well groomed by the time she began royal duties. In Belfast on Shrove Tuesday, as William's fiancée, she happily entered into the spirit of pancake tossing. She may fare much better than Diana.
I hope that she doesn't cope with it like Diana, because for the first few years, Diana just was overwhelmed. She was pregnant inside the royal family within 3 months. She was suffering from an eating disorder, bulimia nervosa. She was very suspicious of Prince Charles's relationship with Camilla Parker Bowles. On top of that, she was decorating a new house, and that's something else that Catherine's got to think about.
In 1969, 20-year-old Charles was invested as Prince of Wales. William might also become a Prince of Wales one day. When Charles accedes to the throne, William automatically becomes Duke of Cornwall, benefiting from the duchy's rich estates and revenues. The duchy's income is over £17 million a year. William comes from an extremely wealthy family, with palatial private homes like Balmoral in Scotland, Sandringham in Norfolk. Charles's country home is Highgrove in Gloucestershire. One day, all this will be William's. Then there's Clarence House, where William and Kate lived for a while. Now the couple are moving into an apartment in Kensington Palace, very near to Diana's old home, with its memories of where William and Harry grew up. William is a countryman at heart. Like the rest of the royal family, he enjoys country pursuits such as hunting. Can he and Kate, with her ordinary background, really be compatible?
Their charts are sort of mirror image of each other, which means that they really come from the same place. They view the world in the same way, through the same lens. So there's a tremendous amount of sharing and caring and connection, and all those kind of really, really good things make a marriage work.
And William may have to be wary of people who use their royal connections, as Tara has frequently done. The Palmer Tompkinsons are rich landowners and part of the court that surrounds Charles and Camilla. Tara's proximity to Charles and his sons has raised concern in the past. William will have to choose his own court carefully. His social circle should reflect a wider Britain than his father's does. Prince William's polo playing sets still form the nucleus of his sporting circle. He still enjoys the company of an exotic set of the very rich and privileged. Charles also played polo as a young man. He met Camilla at a polo match in the early 1970s. She became his secret married mistress, the third person in his marriage to Diana. Many years later, Charles confessed their long affair. Now some wonder if history will repeat itself with William. During their long courtship, Kate was aware that other girls were attracted to him. But William has shown her total commitment since their short separation. Although women may still find him attractive, hopefully he will remain faithful and not take a mistress like his father did.
No woman knows whether they're going to tolerate their husband's mistress until they discover it and have to confront it. I think that Catherine has proved herself to be very loyal, very patient, and also very forgiving. But I don't think this is a relationship where they go into it thinking it's going to fall apart. They've made their vows in front of the world, not just the Archbishop of Canterbury.
Charles married his mistress Camilla in 2005. She is now the Duchess of Cornwall, but she has not found her royal role easy. Charles and Camilla have an understanding that she needs her own space with her family of her first marriage.
Camilla retreats more and more to her old home, Raymill House, which she kept after marrying Charles very wisely as a bolt hole. It is one of the few places where she really feels she can sort of kick off her shoes and sort of be a little bit more liberated. I think she is finding adjusting to royal life quite demanding. She's not a great fan of royal tours or royal engagements, but you know, she's made her bed and she's got to lie in it.
With the scandals of their past behind them, Charles and Camilla have made a good marriage, uniting their two families. Camilla is gradually being accepted by the public.
I think Charles's second marriage is obviously a much better match, and he had to wait a very long time to get there. And so it's almost like, you know, over the years they proved themselves as a couple. The interesting thing is that how much do we change as people? I mean, we gain in our experience and wisdom, I hope, but we're always essentially the same person. And so Charles is always who he is, and he has a kind of awkward chart. He's a, you know, it's not an easy fit when you start looking at love and relationships. It's full of idealism and romanticism and not being very good at reality. So he was going to find that an obstacle with whoever he was with. I think what's curious here is that Camilla has many features in her chart that Diana did as well. So in a way, he's just got a kind of older version of the same record. Only, of course, Camilla had a different upbringing, a different life, you know, all those things make her different. But there are some really interesting connections between Diana, Camilla, and Charles.
In 2006, a year after their own wedding, Charles and Camilla attended the wedding of Laura, Camilla's daughter from her first marriage. The bride arrived with her father, Camilla's ex-husband, Andrew Parker Bowles. Divorce and remarriage had become a fact of life for the royal family, as for so many others in the land. Laura, who married Harry Lopez, is now William and Harry's stepsister. Her brother Tom is their stepbrother. Among the wedding guests was William's girlfriend, Kate. She was clearly at ease with Camilla's relatives. For the first time, Kate looked like the princess she would become. The press stepped up their speculation on her marriage to William. William's younger cousins, Beatrice and Eugenie, were at the royal wedding with their father, Prince Andrew. Their mother, Sarah Ferguson, was banned because of her numerous scandals. As the Duke and Duchess of York, they had also married at Westminster Abbey, but the couple separated and divorced. Their girls were close to William and Harry in childhood, sharing holidays in both sun and snow.
Improving, you two, very good.
They're improving.
Very good skiers.
Richard, sorry, could you ask for
As royal children, they had to pose for photo calls, something Kate never did until her engagement to William.
Yes, it'll be good fun. Very good. Enjoy it.
Tiggy Leg Burke was a much-loved young nanny who shared many adventures with the young princes. She was brought in to help Charles with his boys after the couple's separation. But Diana was jealous of the influence she had over her sons. Daredevil Harry flourished under her guidance, and her kindness helped him to deal with the loss of his mother when he was only 12. A year after Diana's death, William and Harry arrived in Canada for a brief visit with their father. Teenage girls treated the boys like rock stars. William was overwhelmed by it, but Harry lapped it up. Harry became a career soldier, serving on the front line in Afghanistan as a forward air controller with his regiment, the Blues and Royals. He is determined to return there later this year. His on-off girlfriend, the South African Chelsea Davy, has had to cope with his passion for polo and his long absences on army duty. Their torrid romance has lasted several years.
Oh, it's a real love match. I mean, there's no doubt about it. There's great passion between the two of them when they're together. The tension is visible, there's electricity, there's sparks flying everywhere. You can tell that they have a very volatile relationship, tremendous shouting matches, screaming rows, but then they get back together again. I would say that of all the royal romances currently going on, theirs was the real true thing. It's a real deal. And I suspect, unless something catastrophic happens, they will marry, but it'll be a very tempestuous marriage.
Astrologically, they're a perfect match. They're like a match like Catherine and William. And it's hard for me to see how he will replace her, Chelsea, with anyone else. I think it's a strong bond, and we'll have to wait and see what happens.
Harry says that Kate is like a sister to him. He spoke about her before a charity trek in Norway.
He's gonna, at the end of the day, he's gonna walk down that aisle with his wife. So that's fantastic.
With Kate married into the House of Windsor, media speculation has shifted to her younger sister, Pippa. Also dark-haired and attractive, Pippa is now Britain's most eligible girl and is tipped to marry a man with a stately home. Pippa was much admired for her appearance as Kate's maid of honour. Shortly before her sister's marriage, she attended the wedding of the Duke of Northumberland's daughter at Alnwick Castle, the setting for Hogwarts in the Harry Potter films. Pippa is an old friend of the bride's brother. The media have tried to matchmake Harry with Pippa. A union of the princes and the sisters would be an extraordinary double match. Chelsea Davy also attended the Northumberland wedding. This group of wealthy friends move in the same social circles as William and Kate, but can they connect well with ordinary people too? On their last public engagement before their wedding, William and Kate visited Blackburn in Lancashire, one of the poorer parts of the country. Kate was now a polished performer, ready to take on the royal life ahead of her. The couple opened a new state school, clearly at ease with the pupils and happy in each other's company. Kate is now finding married life all she hoped it would be. When Pippa arrived at Westminster Abbey, she was in charge of the bridal party, which included the 8-year-old Tom, son of Tiggy Leg Burke, William's former nanny. Tom is the blonde boy behind the bridesmaids. The great and the good, the famous and the unknown, politicians and potentates, friends and relatives, all assembled for the wedding of the century. Kate, whose family tree includes coal miners, came to Westminster Abbey to marry her prince. This was a real-life fairy tale come true for the whole Middleton family.
In looking at William's need for a kind of maternal bond with his woman, it's interesting to me that he may well feel a kind of attraction towards older women and need that kind of sense that he missed to a degree with his own mother dying so early. And maybe it explains too why he felt that kind of strong bond with Catherine's mother, Carol Middleton, who would have naturally kind of, wanted to make him feel loved as a mother can do.
The Middletons have already played a great role by producing a girl as delightful as Catherine, who will help William lead the monarchy through into the 21st century. But they've also shown their mettle during the royal wedding. I mean, Pippa looked fabulous, James read very well, Michael and Carol really were the doting, loving parents, and they added to the spectacle, added to the sense of the family. So, if the royal wedding was the renewal of the vows between the monarchy and the nation, the Middletons played a very significant part in that.
When the Queen came to see her grandson marry, she must have recalled the wedding of Charles and Diana 30 years before. Unlike Kate, Diana was the daughter of an earl with a stately home and proud ancestral lineage. People wonder what she would have made of her son's choice of bride.
I think Diana would be rather jealous, actually, of the fact that Catherine has already got a very finished fashion sense, that she's very much in control, very capable, with a great eye for detail. Diana always wanted a daughter, always wanted to mentor a daughter through the labyrinthine world of the royal family. She'd have enjoyed teaching Catherine the ropes, but there'd have been a twinge of jealousy that she was passing on the fashion baton from one generation to the next.
William's commitment and love of Kate evokes the unconditional love that Diana gave William. Kate wears Diana's ring. She will live in her old palace, and she will devote her life to Diana's son. Could having a couple so popular in line to the throne have consequences for Charles and Camilla?
Prince Charles is the longest serving Prince of Wales in history. He's not going to give up his chance of ruling, of being sovereign, nor would Prince William want him to. He wants to remain in the background for as long as he can. But sadly, the opinion polls have been against Prince Charles for the last 20 years. For 20 years, the British public have wanted William over Charles to be king. And if, quite frankly, if the House of Windsor was a popularity contest, William would win it hands down.
The world of William and Kate is closer to that of their subjects than any other members of the British royal family. They are the great hope for its survival. Added to that, rumours have been around for a long time that some people do not see Charles becoming king.
Many years ago, I was looking at Prince Charles's chart, and I felt he might not make it as king. And I remember at the time it was very shocking, and people were sort of very, concerned about how could you see that in a horoscope. Well, nothing's changed in my mind. I'm still not sure he'll be king. Now, there may be many reasons for this. It may be that the Queen goes on for many, many years. She has a long life ahead of her, like her mother. So by the time, there is the succession due, Charles could be even in his mid-80s, and he might not make it that long. So there are all sorts of reasons why we might not see a King Charles and why we might see a King William next. And I think we have to wait and see how things pan out in the fullness of time. But I think we've got a while to wait.
William and Kate are the golden couple of the House of Windsor. Their wedding has won the hearts of the British public. What will their future hold?
I think when you see William and Catherine together being married, the very next thing, it's like when a couple get married, when are they going to have a baby? But with William and Catherine, it's really, what kind of king and queen are they going to make? It's the interest of, how they will be in the years to come, presiding over a Britain that may go through all sorts of sea changes. And I mean, you can see straight off the bat in just the way they stand together, who they are as people. This is going to be a great royal couple. They are going to be the right couple for the right time for Britain.
William and Kate's wedding has heralded a new and exciting era in the history of the British royal family. Maybe the best is yet to come.
For the full episode of Royal Inheritance, William and Kate Into the Future is now available on ATV's website, www.hkatv.com.